Hi, welcome to Naukri Learning. My name is Kanika Garg. I've been working in artificial intelligence and machine learning for past 8 years. And along in this career, I have faced many interviews. So here today, we are going to discuss about some important interview questions and how to prepare for those questions regarding deep learning. I know deep learning interviews can be very daunting, but with the right preparation and practice, you can be sure to ace the interview. So let's move on. These are the various topics that I'm going to include today. First, we will learn about the type of companies that we can prepare for. So, different companies expect different aspects of the concepts. So, the type of interviews or the preparations for those interviews are generally based on the type of interviews we are sitting for the interviews. So let's first quickly understand about these companies. So we'll discuss about the product-based companies and the service-based companies. Then what could be the strategy for the preparation, and then the important deep learning questions, and then the related sources from where we can study further more. Now, like I've told, there are two ways, or say two types of companies that we are generally looking for. So there are many websites. They teach their candidates these skills and help them in preparation through the mock tests. But there's always one thing that we should be aware about preparing the interview for, whether the company is product based or the service based. So both of these verticals are equally important while they share some similarities also, but they also have some differences. So let's just understand the product based companies. Generally the motivation behind this kind of organization is a desire to assist various clients or to get into the innovations in their current products. So here the primary concern would be, what should I do to improve my product? So they are continuously using a variety of technologies to build a software product or maybe a hardware product using their software backgrounds. The examples could be the Amazon, Microsoft, Cisco, Adobe, and others. So these companies have their own product range, and when used by other customers, they are customized as per their clients' needs. So one thing that you should know about these companies, that they are more focused on R&D. Even you are a developer, but you would be expected to know the grounds of research and development. That means you're continuously growing. Okay. Now let's talk about the service based companies. The service based IT businesses are generally motivated by the client's demands. So they provide services and solutions in accordance with whatever client needs. So these companies do not produce anything themselves. Instead, they assist other companies or people in creating products, or maybe they offer services to meet their IT requirements. So they may use the predefined products or the already available products, and they just twitch them a little to meet the needs of the other companies. So the examples would be like Infosys, Wipro, TCS, Cognizant, etc. All right. So we then you may be wondering why it matters to a developer if the company is product based or service based company, given that they must code in the end. The catch is that although both the types of organizations require developers and they ultimately have to write the code, okay, the differences lies in the approach. Like I have told you, in the product based companies, it is always the research and development part. In product based companies, you are expected to be doing R&D, as any new idea is always welcomed. So it may change the whole business line. Like you say, initially the phone industry used to use phones only for the telecom purposes, like for the messages or maybe for the normal phone calls. But now whole industry has changed. Why? Because it was a product based companies and the new technology has come, it was welcomed, and we now have a whole range of new mobile phones that are not just used for the for making phone calls or something, but they are a complete computer that we have in our hand every time. So people are encouraged to, speak up and share their ideas, where research and development are at its peak. So, but in these service-based companies, the requirements are frozen by the other people or the other clients that they have. So a specific team takes care of that area only, and not everyone gets the chance to, have innovative ideas and to put them into use. So for those whoever they have their mind in research and development may not get the chance what they can do. So now if you can just see this word cloud, all the words which are in bold and bigger, they are the important words or the key words for deep learning, like the artificial intelligence, network brain, programming, innovation, you know, knowledge chain, automation. These are all the important terminologies that are used in deep learning. Now let's see some deep learning questions. The main focus of the product based companies are generally these scenario based questions. They will not directly ask you what is deep learning, what is a network or something, the questions like that. They'll put a scenario in front of you, and then they will expect you to understand that scenario and then carefully answer or curate your answer accordingly. For example, let's see the very first question here. How would we know if we have enough data to create an accurate enough rider ETA models? Okay. Now they have given a hint also. Like, suppose you are in a city of, say, Jaipur with 4 million population. Now, this is a scenario based question. Okay. That they have given you some demographic information and interests. And now you have to tell them what kind of model that you can create so that they can have a accurate enough ETA model. Here you have to use your brain. You cannot just, if you just have learned all the books or maybe studied all the definitions and everything, these questions or these preparations are not going to help you here. Okay. So you have to tell them here what you can do, what kind of recommendation system you can use, whether you can use recommendation system or not. So you have to put your mind in here and then you have to carefully answer this question. Okay. Now quickly move on to the next question. How would you design a classifier to predict the optimal moment for a commercial break during a video? Now, before trying to answer this commercial break recommendation question and applying any technique, the question has to be framed in a meaningful statistical problem so that we can use machine learning here. You do not just go straight away telling the answer that we can use this thing or that. You have to apply some statistical analysis or maybe statistical understanding to it so that you can justify that after using the statistical analysis, now you are moving towards the machine learning thing. Okay. Then the another question could be, how would you create a recommendation engine to help users looking for a new rental unit? Okay. Now again, the same question. Here they have given you that you have to create a recommender system. But how is the answer? Now, if I want to go and look for a new rental property, the recommendation would be based on some ideas that I'm looking on, right? It could not be just random. So what could be those ideas? How will you enable those ideas into your machine? You should put all of your mind into those questions and formulate a statistical method or maybe a hypothesis, and then you will answer this question. Okay. Then how would you explain the bias variance trade-off in deep learning to a high school student? Now, this is a little easy question, but they have made it a trickier by stating like you have to make it understand to a high school student. So that means you have to understand or you have to, assume the person sitting in front of you, he's a novice person. That means he doesn't have a basic understanding of deep learning or maybe machine learning thing. So then you have to start building your concept. What is exactly bias? What is exactly variance? And what is the trade-off between them and how it impacts the deep learning model or maybe deep learning algorithms? So you may think that this is easier to answer if you just crumble upon some definition or something, but no, it is not. You have to give examples, certain examples you have to extend to make them understand what exactly this trade-off is. All right. Now, the next question is when would you use regularization versus cross validation? Okay. Now, before you answer this question, of course, you must understand both the terminologies, and they are not generally used for the same purpose. So, with this regularization versus validation problem, remember that the cross validation is about choosing the best model, whereas the regularization is about just simplifying the models. So the purpose of both of the things are different, but generally the people get confused and try to answer them in a similar manner. Okay. Now, is it possible to train a neural network model by setting all biases to 0? And also, is it possible to train a neural network model by setting all the weights to 0? Now you have to again carefully answer this this question, because we know that if the bias is 0, even then we can create a neural network model. Okay, but is it so possible when the weights are 0? Now think about it. Can we do it if all the weights are 0? How the learning would take place? Is it possible that a network would learn when all the weights are 0? When all the weights are 0, the ultimate summation would be 0, and the net value will be taken as 0 only at the end of the neural network. So it is not going to learn anything when all the weights are 0. So here you have to, think about it, and then you can carefully answer these questions. So never just try to hurry. Take a minute, or maybe you can just say that, to tell them that, okay, let me just think, and just take a moment back and then think about it and then carefully answer it. Now, these are some, of course, straight away questions, EDA steps in deep learning problem. What could be the exploratory data analysis that you can perform in a deep learning problem? Because the deep learning problem are not exactly as the machine learning problem, where, you have to every time carefully choose each and every feature or feature extraction. So what could be the EDA steps that you can do? So maybe you can just pick a scenario in front of them and then explain, or maybe in the generalized way. That is up to you totally. Okay, then now this question is a little tricky question, that describe your favorite deep learning algorithm for image processing. Because whatever answer you may give, it could be anything, any algorithm you may start with, but then you have to justify your answer. It should have some pros over other algorithms that you are choosing, and then you have to, favor your algorithm, why your algorithm, or why it is your favorite. Maybe it could be just because it is simple to implement, maybe it is simple to understand, maybe it gives higher accuracy, maybe it works better on certain type of data. So this could be anything, but you should know every in and out about that deep learning algorithm. That is, in that manner only you can, just give or maybe justify your answer, which algorithm is your favorite algorithm. Now, moving on to the next, what is the significance of using the Fourier transform in deep learning tasks? Now, this is really a very good question. We have all studied Fourier transform way back in some BTech or maybe whatever courses you have done. Some people have studied in their mathematics course, and the electrical people have done their in the BTech courses. So every one of us know that there is a certain thing called Fourier transform. So this is an important part, because Fourier transform is actually helping deep learning algorithms to work far better. So you have to understand what Fourier transform is and how it is impacting the deep learning tasks. Okay, this is really a very good question that has been asked various times in various interviews. Now, the next question could be when transfer learning is useful. Give some examples of where you have used it. Now, we have so many models available for transfer learning. Okay. We call them also the pre-trained models. Now, why pre-trained models are useful? Of course, we know sometimes we do not have enough data with us to train our model. So what we can do is we can use a model which is trained on maybe some other kind of other data or maybe other domain. And if it is helpful, we can use that pre-trained model on our data. And then it can give us some results. Now, suppose I want to perform, say, sentiment classification, and I say have only, a text file with some 100 lines, or maybe some small document. So, or maybe a paragraph. But how can I train a model with small data? I cannot. So what will I do? I'll fetch a pre-trained model. I'll give my whole paragraph or the document to that pre-trained model as an input. I will get the answer. Maybe that answer will not be highly accurate, but then it will give me some insight about it. Okay, so that is why the transfer learning is of course useful, and you can give various examples where you can use it in your present situation, or maybe you have used it in your current company. Okay. Now, the question on the dropout layer, this is one of the very serious questions that have been asked almost everywhere, because whenever we use deep learning and, apply it on the Python or something, we always tend to add a dropout layer. So you must understand what dropout layer is and why do we use it. This is again a question on the architecture of the deep learning model. So, of course, when you apply a deep learning model, you must understand its architecture as well, because its architecture is really important. Then, about the error analysis of deep learning model. Now, of course, we know that error analysis is a very important part. Until and unless we perform error analysis, we cannot affirm, or we cannot be sure what kind of errors we are dealing with or how can we improve them. So any model we have, let it be the machine learning model or the deep learning model or a statistical model, error analysis is important. So you must understand various methods that we can apply to deep learning model for its error analysis, or what are the existing methods that we are using to find out or to find the occurrences of the errors, or maybe the error analysis for the deep learning models. Okay. Now, what are the differences between, just don't mind me here, it's RNN, CNN, and LSTM. This is the very basic question. So it could be asked in anywhere, like the normal service based companies, and sometimes in the product based companies, just to understand your basic understanding about RNN, CNN, and LSTM. So you should be aware about in what scenarios we can use RNN, which scenarios we can use CNN, and whether LSTM is a part of RNN or maybe related to RNN or CNN, what exactly LSTM is. Okay, what is its full form, what each and every term signifies to. Like if I say LSTM is long short term memory, that means they can ask you what does this signify, because we are using two opposite meaning words like long and short term memory. So what does exactly means? So they can ask you this kind of understanding of the terminologies that you are using. Like in CNN, they can ask you what exactly convolution means. In RNN, why they are called recurrent. Okay, and what kind of data they work upon. So a basic understanding their architecture, why they are used, why they are names, because not any name that we put onto the model is random. They have some significance, they have some meaning. So you must understand. So whatever you learn, just learn it thoroughly. Okay. Then, of course, the very famous, some famous Python libraries for deep learning, because if you are going to implement it, you must know the libraries that we are going to use for deep learning. Then the famous ones are, I think you can guess, the tensor ones, keras. These are the very famous Python libraries, but these are not just. There are various other libraries that in current situations we are using for implementation of the deep learning models. So deep learning, also the deep learning models are not confined to RNN, CNN, and LSTM. Rather, a huge set of deep learning models are available right now. You just go and explore and just prepare for these interviews. Okay. So apart from these, you might be aware of some terminologies like RLU, ReLU we use in deep learning models, or say the architecture. And some other famous questions could be like, say, what is the difference between the supervised and the unsupervised learning? What are the advantages of recurrent neural network over CNNs? What is the concept of, say, backpropagation? Because it's a model, it's based on neural networks only. So the backpropagation is the common way of learning it. So what it is, and what is the difference between, say, a generative and a discriminative model? Okay, what is the purpose of the activation function? These are the questions that I have not mentioned here, but these are the very questions based on the architecture of the deep learning model. So these are the related sources that you can go through for your preparations. Coursera has some, defined ways, or say some set of um, instructions for how you can prepare for your interviews. Then again, Geeks for Geeks, Medium, Educative, Edureka, sorry. These are some sites where you can find some really good stuff. So I think with the right preparation and practice, you can be sure to ace your deep learning interview. And apart from that, what you can do is you should research your company first before sitting for the interview, then brush up on your knowledge, then practice some codes, prepare the questions, prepare for the technical questions, and also for your questions, how you can relate these with your previous work. Okay, that is really important. So thank you. And if you really like this video, please like, share, and comment on this Naukri Learning. Thank you. Bye-bye.